welcome, Jesse and Sam. Thank you so much for joining us today. I would like to have this conversation with the both of you because, you were very much a part of Luminara Academy's Essential Life Skills program that we ran back in March. And, I want to touch base and hear your ideas, hear your inspirations, any lessons that you've learned from it, and really speak about Canary Kids Club and where we go from here. So the both of you are founders, so I'll let you introduce yourself. And really what I want to talk about first is really about the mission of Canary Kids Club. Tell us a little bit about your business and, how it intersects really with Luminara Academy in terms of our ideas and our skills that we teach.
Yeah, absolutely. Our overall mission is really to empower the next generation of kids and give them the essential resilience tools so they can thrive in a fast-changing world. And for us, we feel that the best that we can help to do that is to design and deliver experiences that show kids not just what or why they should develop those skills, such as empathy, but exactly how to do it in a way that's fun and also hands-on. And also another big priority for us is sustainability. So with, everything that we design, everything that, our products, we want to be low impact, we want to be low waste as much as possible. Both because we feel an obligation to do our part to protect the world that our kids will inherit, but also it gives us the opportunity to teach them how to be resourceful and how to be thoughtful when it comes to using the planet's resources.
And I love that. I love that sort of combination of sustainability, but also really teaching our kids life skills and, the skills that they really need to navigate tomorrow's world. That's really great. Thank you so much. A little bit about, as I mentioned before, alluded to, you were a key part of our Essential Life Skills program. And, when I approached you, I can't remember how we came, our collaboration started, but I know I met you at Mamas & Co. last year. Or we connected through that. And there's a little bit of a, dual sort of mission that we have in terms of empowering our next generation of leaders. And so, we talked about coming on board and delivering a workshop at the Essential Life Skills program. I know what I, wanted in terms of having Canary Kids Club join us, but what inspired you to sort of connect and collaborate with us?
I think, speaking for myself, when I saw you introduce yourself in the members forum in Mamas & Co., I just saw that you seemed to be, totally sold on this idea that I was not seeing, elsewhere, especially locally. Just this idea that, these broad and transferable life skills really need attention. And I just thought, oh my gosh, finally, someone else who really gets it and who really has enthusiasm for this area of education for our kids, which I feel is being pretty broadly neglected in the mainstream school system. And I think that a lot of parents want to do this, and I think that they don't necessarily know exactly how to do it effectively. They may not themselves have the background or the confidence that they have the right background to be doing this at home on their own. So I just think that it's much needed, and I just saw in you and what you're doing, I saw a kindred spirit to Canary Kids Club in Luminara Academy.
Thanks so much, Jeffy, and I completely wholeheartedly agree. I think there is a real lack of these skills in traditional education, and that's by no means I'm not condoning what traditional education is and isn't doing. It's just that there's so much that we need to focus on in terms of preparing our kids for tomorrow's world. And with technology and the power that technology brings into our lives, I feel like the soft skills are getting neglected. And what, the world that you and I grew up in, and Sam, the world that we grew up in is so different than the world of today and tomorrow. And I think kids really need to be taught these skills. So I believe there is power in numbers, and I think that idea of collaborating together just helps us get our message across and hopefully connect with parents who don't know how, and through our programs and through our businesses, we can show them how.
Absolutely. And I think many parents, don't necessarily have the capacity or the time to be as involved as they would like in their kids' school lives. So I think that a lot of the time there's kind of like an assumption that parents make, like the schools are really taking care of this. They're really kind of teaching these life skills. And I think the schools are sort of like, we're at capacity. We have so much curriculum to deliver. We have so many stakeholders to satisfy. We can't take this on as well. We think the parents are doing it. So it's sort of like, someone needs to step in and do this work.
And that's a great point you made, because I think we need to have the conversation. I think there's a lot of unsaid there, assumptions, parents are assuming one thing, educators are assuming a different thing, but really nothing's happening in that space. And I know mindfulness is being incorporated into the curriculum. I know my daughter comes and tells me, I've learned about the amygdala and the hippocampus, and I start to unpick those conversations a little bit, but really the practical applications of how and why these become important, and understanding, where do you use these sorts of skills, and how is it going to help you unfold when you hit that obstacle, when you hit that challenge? How does mindfulness really help you, and resilience really help you, get through that is I think where that gap is, really that practical application. So I hope that, with our businesses, we can connect and we can bridge that gap.
Yeah, me too.
So Sam, you were, key part in delivering a session for empathy and resilience at our program last month? Oh my gosh, now it was in March. I guess the standout moment or lessons that you observed.
It was fantastic. I wasn't sure what to expect going into that, what the reaction would be. I know we were prepared to deliver our section about resilience, and we had our activities there for the kids to engage in, but it was really one of our first opportunities to see face to face the reactions of the people who are enrolled in the program. So what I was really impressed with was their collaboration, because I know a lot of them were strangers to each other. Some did, I think, know each other, were siblings as well. But even at that, you weren't always in the same setting that you're used to at home or with your friends or even strangers. So that we had that nice open space to teach the kids in a safe space where they knew that they were coming in to learn something that's tough and that they could struggle with. And just watching them support each other through the activities was super amazing. And I just didn't realize what that they would come away with was what we wanted to actually come away with. So when we did a little bit of a recap at the end and a wrap up, and they said, I do now understand how to look from somebody else's point of view, which was really one of the driving factors of the activities that we did, by letting them really role play in another person's shoes. And they just said, I get it. So giving them that chance to practice those skills in that safe space, I hope that they've gone on to practice that again, or not even practice, but just be able to apply that in real life when they come across those situations. I have to admit, I was really, I'm kind of getting tearful now of how strong these kids actually were when they were allowed to practice these, the empathy and the resilience and perspective taking skills that they have the capacity to learn. So
absolutely. And I think perspective taking is something that is so important and a key component of empathy. And it was really great to see kids, some of them did struggle with it, but it was great to see them try and really, give that sort of understanding of, I'm putting myself in somebody else's shoes, and this is a really important skill because now I understand where they're coming from. And I think that was a really great activity. And one thing that I will say, just from observing that activity, the blindfold challenge they did was, even though communication wasn't part of the, actual session with empathy and resilience, I could see some real communication strengths that came out from that, because, the person who was blindfolded had to undertake this activity and, listen to their peers in terms of the instructions that they had to do to be able to put that toy together. So I think there was, for me, it was a real success to see these kids together, and it was phenomenal. So thank you so much for drawing that.
It was so good. Like the one thing like I do want to commend them for is how sort of, I would say seriously, they took it in. Like they were there, they wanted to learn, you know, regardless of how they got there, whether they were signed up by their families or peers, asked them to join, or they saw the program and they said, hey, yeah, this is really for me. They all actually engaged and seemed like they wanted to be there and they wanted to expand these skills, resilience and all the other applications that you provided for that whole week of camp. So that was really impressive to see how much sincerity that they take in for themselves and their own personal growth, that they see the need on their own, which was a really impressive thing I didn't know I would be able to take away with.
It was a great experience. I came out feeling really excited. So it was fantastic to have you guys there, and we're looking so forward to having you back again in our summer programs. So one thing I will ask, so, you know, we've had this conversation, we've alluded earlier to the fact about, you know, these soft skills being really critical and core for our next generation. But I think one of the challenges, you know, as a business, when you're selling these skills, you're selling these sort of intangible skills because, you know, parents are so used to putting your kids in art camp or science camp or STEM camps, and you come away with, I have built something, or I have drawn or created something. And I think one of the challenges, how do you position, you know, what kids are coming away with when they're engaging in our businesses where they're learning these skills that are so critical for tomorrow, like empathy and resilience and communication. So I guess the question I would ask is, you know, what do you see as the value in kids learning these skills from a young age, you know, so that parents can understand, well, why are we doing what we're doing? You know, what are the benefits that we see for preteens and teens? And I'd be interested in hearing your perspective on that.
Absolutely. I'll start, and Sam, if you want to jump in and one of them, please do. So I think the big picture answer here is that a lot of the time in society, and this is like across the board, we end up investing so much in fixing a problem instead of preventing from arising in the first place. So, you know, when we do invest the time and energy early, you know, whether that's and I mean this is an issue like in planning and development and in politics and in, you know, climate action. You know, if we come early to the table and we look in early childhood and we say, okay, what can we do to prevent some of the ills that we know everyone was at risk for? You know, if we're talking burnout or anxiety or depression, or, you know, things that maybe there's not a specific diagnosis for, but, you know, bullying or other types of emotional crises or social crises. You know, a lot of the work that we do to build up social skills and emotional coping skills, you know, there's the potential to reduce or maybe even completely avoid some of those really severe problems that happen later in life, like in youth. You know, the stage is set now, you know, for kids who are, you know, who are tweens and teens, you know, for us to sort of provide, I don't want to say interventions, but provide supports that make intervention later sort of unnecessary, or at least way less severe. You know, there's no one who doesn't experience stress. There's no one who doesn't have. It doesn't matter how marginalized or how privileged a person is. Everyone needs to cope with their own issues. And so if we can give tools to put in that toolkit early, then, you know, we think that there's really a powerful ripple effect that can last for the rest of someone's life.
Absolutely. I'm so on point with that. And I see that in my own children nowadays. You know, my eldest will have challenges at school with friendships or, you know, whatever the situation might be. And giving them that toolkit of how to build in the ability to resolve, even just to navigate what they're feeling and how to work through that is something that I think we need to start building from an earlier age in our kids. I don't think we should necessarily be waiting until they are, like you said, until the problem has arisen. I think we need to start operating from a mode of prevention rather than sort of, what's the word I would be looking for, trying to fix the problem that you mentioned before.
Yeah.
And
Sorry.
Sam, did you?
I was just going to say, like, therapy or treatment.
Yeah.
You know, what do they say?
It is.
Ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yeah. I love that. Sam, did you have anything to add?
It's really similar to what Jesse was saying. It's just setting some more building blocks for their strengths and what we can give them, kids moving forward. So whether it's, again, starting at the early age of just vocabulary, how to explain how they're feeling, because a lot of it will go into their own self-confidence or self-assertiveness. It's not necessarily about whether they're introverted or extroverted or need to be heard or they're loud or they're shy. It's just about how can they navigate through their own situations with friends and family and make sure that their needs are addressed so that they aren't overshadowed and feel like that maybe they're not worthy enough because they haven't had the chance to build the confidence and find their voices and these skills that do just let them be heard and seen, because they're a little bit shyer or they're a little bit more reserved, or they feel that they're super emotional and they just don't know how to share that or explain it to other people. So they sort of reserve themselves into quieter spaces, and everything will allow them to sort of put the pieces together that's working for them in a way to communicate with one person or many people. So it's just that small set of, like we said before, like toolbox or these building blocks on the intangible stuff, right? Because there's lots of building blocks that we do to help kids move forward, like teaching them to walk, eating with a spoon, and when those things that maybe are challenging are discovered earlier, there's other interventions that are done so that it's not challenging, and walking becomes a bit easier for a child that may be having difficulty with that. So just putting these terms or ideas, or it's not even ideas, they're there, like, into mainstream conversations with grown-ups so that they can have their toolkit to continue on building blocks and from that they need to just lift their kids up forward. It's another one of those things I think that we want to get across, that these are essential skills along with other physical or academic skills that are more known or mainstream, let's say, like just get into the regular everyday vocabulary as people will.
Yeah, I love that analogy, Sam. I think that is so brilliant. So sorry, Jessie, I know you want to add to that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, sometimes it's hard to sort of connect the dots between, building this stuff up and how could it really have such an impact? And like you said, it's kind of difficult to measure, right? And so, for example, I was talking to a clinical therapist who works with couples, and she was saying, a lot of these couples, they lack emotional self-awareness and emotional vocabulary and the communication skills to be able to tell each other what they are feeling, and it's that's the basis for a marriage, that is the foundation for a family. That's what our society is built on, right? So it's like, if more parents can work together better, and if people are more are able to take care of their mental well-being, that's there is that kind of trickle down or trickle up effect of one member of a family, and a marriage and a wider family, and the relationships between parents and kids. Like a lot of people who are really successful at helping with behavioral management for children, a lot of them don't even work with the children. They work with the parents on their communication skills, on their self-control and self-management, right? And so it is actually something that in the adult world, we have, partially from COVID and partially for other reasons, we're starting to think, hey, maybe there's something to all of this. And so why wait until people are grown up to start doing this, right? It's long and it's hard. Those of us who care about it, we work on it internally as well. And the earlier we can start, there's like the compound interest of those.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I completely agree. I think, you know, the children learn a lot through modeling. So there's a lot of work that we as parents have to do. And I think it comes down to that self-awareness and reflection about, you know, how can we show up better as parents to our kids, because that's how they learn. But then also, how can we build our emotional toolkit and also teach them that as well? And I think this is where, you know, starting the conversation and continuing that conversation and expanding that conversation into today's world is so important, because like Sam said, there's a lot of focus on the physical aspect, you know, on developing your motor skills and developing your academic skills and developing your physical ability. But there's very little focus on developing the abilities that help you build that mental resilience and that emotional resilience. And that is what is going to carry you through life. So I think having those conversations early on and, you know, parents being aware of what they can do to support their kids is just, you know, hopefully as a society, we can really help change that future generation.
Absolutely. And I think to what Sam was saying too, about it being universal, right? Like it's not just, this is something that people from any age can benefit from. And I think that there's somewhat of a misconception that, you know, social and emotional learning, just like, let's say sensory play, it's for preschool, or it's for kindergarten, or play-based learning, you know, that's for kindergarten. But the thing is, that's for human beings. Every human being has like sensory needs, things that are grating or things that are soothing. Every human being likes to play, right? And every human being can benefit from building these skills. And I've had conversations with people where they believe this is something that, you know, only kids with special needs require, like kids who have maybe an ADHD diagnosis or are on the autism spectrum, or kids who are thought of as too shy or introverted or withdrawn. And I actually find that myself as an extrovert, I have a greater need to build my social skills than an introvert might, because I am so engaged in the moment that I'm not necessarily as reflective, right? So I think that there is this big misconception like, oh, you know, my kid is extroverted, my kid has lots of friends, so they have social skills, right? That's sort of like a mismatch. To assume one thing from another thing, they don't actually go together, because extroversion is more of a personality trait, whereas what we're talking about is skills.
Absolutely.
So it's not about someone's innate personality characteristics. It's about being able to function in challenging situations.
I love that distinction. Thank you so much, Jessie. So I'm gonna ask, because of your, you know, Canary Kids Club and the programs and the sort of toolkits that you offer, how can parents support their children in developing empathy and resilience at home? What are some of sort of the tips and tricks that you can share with our audience?
So I think that it's important to do it in a way that doesn't feel like homework or just another chore for either kids or parents. And so a great way to kind of build things into the day is having conversations around the stories that we enjoy together, whether it's, you know, books that we're reading together or movies that we watch together, TV shows that we watch together. You know, starting to ask how people are feeling, how we know what people are feeling, what they say, what they do, how they look, how they, you know, their communication, their facial expressions, their gestures, their posture. You know, what insights does that give us into? What choices are we seeing people make? You know, what could they do differently? We can ask ourselves what we admire about the characters that we love, and, you know, how we can aspire to, you know, be more like them or be better. You know, those are some fun ways to kind of deepen understanding of social and emotional aspects of life, and also to connect to each other as a family. So, you know, that's the thing that I really work on, that my husband and I really work on with our kids. And I think that's sort of like a free and fully accessible way to dive into it. And, this is exactly what we are here for also. We design play kits that offer really fun activities focused on different social and emotional levels, whether those are things like empathy, growth mindset, emotional self-awareness and literacy, belonging and kindness. We are building ways that start the conversation that are hands-on and allow people to build those skills. And these are things that we were not taught, right? So it's for kids and their families to grow together. And because we're doing it through play, we looked that it makes it fun and easy to incorporate into daily life and not something that feels too light or boring or, like a job.
I love that. I think it's so important. It's also just, having kids observe something and then really reflect on what they've observed, right? And I think that's part of that self-reflection and awareness that they can build into their day-to-day practice that will, carry them through, I think, all of their experiences in life. Okay, so I want to flip sort of the conversation here to talk about our summer programs at Luminara Academy. So we have the EQ-led leadership program that you and Sam will be part of. And that's a program that's really building, it's leadership, but it's leadership with emotional intelligence, because I think those two are so fundamentally important in today's world. The success of an organization depends on the people within it rather than people who can just do jobs. That emotional intelligence component is so important. And that's going to be one key aspect of our EQ-led leadership program. And we also have our foundational skills for preteens, because I know a lot of parents have asked, do you have this, these sort of skill sets for younger kids? And so we're offering a milder or toned down version of these soft skills, but again, really starting that conversation about building emotional literacy and helping them understand, what the different emotions are and how can we communicate this better? How do we listen actively? So there are a lot of soft skills that we're bringing into our summer programs, and I know Sam and yourself are going to be engaged with us again. So my question is, what should parents expect and what should kids expect for those that are enrolling in our summer programs?
So we hope that kids will, bring in an attitude like the kids did in the March break camp, bring in an attitude of open-mindedness and enthusiasm to the workshop. And kids should expect to have their minds kind of challenged and stretched in some new ways, right? Maybe ways that are different than they might expect based on the sort of, let's say, the topic or the focus of the workshop. And parents should expect their kids to come home excited to talk about a totally unique and rewarding experience. And I don't want to dive too deep into the weeds in terms of what we're going to be focusing on, but broadly, we're going to be working on how empathy connects to leadership and how empathy is a foundational skill. And there are some surprising relationships between empathy and problem solving and creativity and communication. And so we're going to be exploring those things through, hands-on, more playful experiences.
I love that. So parents, if you haven't registered for our summer program, please log to luminaraacademy.com and sign up today. We are so excited to welcome Jesse and Sam back to our programs in July this year. On the other side, I'm going to ask you, from the business that you run at Canary Kids Club, can you share some success stories in terms of, feedback from parents or participants that highlight the impact of your programs and what you do at Canary Kids Club?
Sam, did you want to jump in and take this at all? I know you're in a different environment. I just want to pause and give you the opportunity. But so you let if not, I have to leave it right.
So some feedback. I'll start with that, and Jesse definitely layer on some of the feedback that you've heard, because we've each sort of done some independent activities with different groups, and we've done this together just so that we can reach as many people as we can to get feedback from all sorts of communities and parent types and age demographics and things like that. So the things that they are saying to us is that they do like the ability that our activities let the kids slow down and just think. They let like that internal work, the vocabulary that they're building, the way that all of our activities sort of help them understand where they are as part of a community, without diving too much into some of our specific activities that we have on, because those are definitely available for us to share as well. And just seeing how I'll say the complexity of the topic is so simplified that anybody can understand and actually leave with something new that they haven't learned before. We've had people come all the way down to Toronto from Bolton for some of the experiences that we've put on, because they believe that much in the need or the ability that maybe they didn't have as parents to instill some of these softer skills into their kids. So we do hear that it is needed. Parents want to know, how can they do this more at home? And some of our tools that we have, that like some of the parents are even more excited that they want to use them, not just to learn these skills with their kids, but just for themselves, to help their own self-regulation as well. Just even down to the simple things of breathing and mindfulness, which are hard things to connect with because they're so conceptual and not always tangible. So we've actually developed some ways to make them tangible and have that skill set for people who are more visual learners to see some of these softer skills in a physical form. So I think that's one of the things that the people that we've spoken to like, that ability to have a tangible way of learning your skills and then being able to put them into practice in situations that are outside of our lessons and our activities and education.
And I'll just add on to that a little bit and say that I think people are appreciating that we are designing our products, our activities, our workshops around the natural inclination that kids have to explore in an open-ended way, to be creative and just make things, to touch things, to have a tactile experience that is, soothing in a sensory way, and to just incorporate, their need for active learning, for a way to learn by doing, right? So, I worked with the Beavers troop that my son is part of, and did a volunteer night where I offered an activity to them. And I think that just the exposure to a concept, but playing with it by role playing and using gross motor movements and using imagination to start to dive into some of these concepts is just sort of like the antithesis of a worksheet or an assembly or a lecture. And I think that those things absolutely have their place, and I have learned so much in those contexts. And I also think that depending on the person and their age, we need to be flexible as educators and meet programs. And I think that we're getting feedback like that when it's appreciated that we're striving for that. I know, there's things that don't always hit the mark, but what we do is we're always iterating. But I think that we're really trying to, from the child's point of view, be appealing, interesting, be fun, and be a means of really feeling free to learn and have fun.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, and I want to commend both you and Sam for the incredible work that you're doing in this space, because again, there are not a lot of people doing this, but it's so essential. And I think step by step we can change the world just by starting small and expanding our reach to parents, and through word of mouth, hopefully it will expand even greater. So thank you both so much for that. So my last question is there any advice that you would give from your perspective to parents of preteens and teens that, are considering enrolling in our programs at Luminara Academy?
Absolutely. So to use an analogy, people, are constantly, aware of the maintenance they need to do, right? Or they're constantly aware of sort of upgrading their software. right? And these are kind of routine things that people invest in, and they see the need and they, keep it on a schedule. And I think that this is one of those instances where it's not as visible, but it's just as necessary to invest in early sort of, I guess what you would say, well-being maintenance and success maintenance. I know these are kind of clumsy terms, but I think that Luminara is offering something that's totally unique and much needed for the kids and youth of today. And I think any kid who is lucky enough to experience any of these summer programs that you're offering is going to come out of it transformed in some way and better equipped, upgraded, so that they can sort of be empowered to create balanced and healthy lives for themselves in the long term. And so that's a benefit, or that's a value that almost couldn't be just right. It's that big, and I think that anyone who chooses to invest in sending their kids to a Luminara camp is going to find that it's a fantastic investment.
Thank you so much, Jessie. I loved again that analogy. I think it's really focusing on our inner well-being, on the our souls, the skills that fuel us, the skills that will sustain us through life. And I think it's something that is becoming more and more necessary in this world, given where we are with technology. So thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it.
I will add one last thing. Yeah. And it's that, I have a tendency to see this as valuable for its own sake. And I know that there are people who would sort of poo-poo that. And people who maybe see soft skills as a bit of a luxury or even a bit woo-woo. Yeah, to use a term that I've recently been introduced to. But I think that, the evidence is there that these types of skills support performance. So even for those kids, for those parents who are completely performance obsessed, or let's say performance focused, whether it's academics or entrepreneurship or career development or arts or sports, any of those areas can be enhanced with greater social, emotional scope.
Absolutely. That is really something that fuels our connection with other people. Because at the end of it, what is the foundation of any of those sort of areas that you've talked about is human connection. And if we don't know how to build and enhance those sort of deep, meaningful relationships with people that come from building these social, emotional skills, we're less likely to propel our own careers forward, and propel our own journey forward. So thank you again so much, Jessie and Sam. It's been a pleasure.